This is our live demo for the project CodeSync for cloud computing course. This is our Albert profile. So, firstly, I'll show the resources, the AWS services we are using. So, at the time of login, we are using Cognito for authentication of users, for signing up and signing in. This is our user pool with these email IDs. Uh, Next up, we have API Gateway, and in this, we are using four APIs. The first one is for the WebSockets, which is a WebSockets API format. And in this, we have four Lambda functions to connect, to disconnect, to fetch the output of the code, and to update the code on all the rooms. The second API is the leave room API, which will be triggered when a user leaves a room. The third is the Python code processing API, which has three methods: create room, fetch output, and submit. So these all will be used in the backend flow. The fourth API is the room check, which will check if a room ID exists or not before letting a user inside the room. So these are all the Lambda functions that we are using. For our database, we're using DynamoDB, and inside this we're using three tables. The first table is for the WebSocket connections, which will store the connection ID and the room ID. This will be populated when a user creates a new room. The second table is the room details table, which has the mapping of room ID and user ID. The user who creates this room will get populated in this table. Our third table is the code execution status table, in which we are storing the submitted code is in which state. If it is in a pending state, the code status is shown as pending, otherwise it is completed. We are using two S3 buckets, one for storing the scripts, the code that is submitted by the users. This will be stored here, and the other one for storing the outputs. We are using an EC2 instance to deploy our front end. So we are using this instance for this. And also we are using EC2 instances to manage our Docker API, the API that will support the running of the code. We are also using a load balancer and an auto scaling group to handle the scalability part of the API. We are using this SQS queue to decouple the architecture. So whenever a user submits the code, a signal will be sent in this SQS queue along with the script being stored in this S3 bucket, and then we will proceed. So moving on to the demo, first I'll show the sign up part. So if I input a email ID and give a password and a name, it should work. Okay, so now the user has to complete the two-factor authentication to complete the sign up process. And now I'll show the signing in part. So this is an already verified user. So after I sign in, I have two options: create a room or join a room. So since I'm the owner of this room, or I'm the interviewer, I'll create a room. I'll get this room ID. I'll copy it to send it to the interviewee, and now I'll join this room. So now I'm inside this room, and I've shared this room ID with my interviewee, and he will also log into his account, which I've already logged in here. He will paste this room ID and click on join room. So now you can see both the interviewee and the interviewer have joined the rooms. Now if I go ahead and write some code, you can see that it is being updated in both rooms. And if I go ahead and run it, This also has syntax highlighting, so my Python code is getting auto formatted and highlighted. So I'll write a code to print the square of a number till 20, from 0 to 20, and I click on run on this room. So it takes a little time to boot up. So the first time it takes some time, and as you can see, I have all the squares of the number up to number 19. And what happens if I have an error in my code? So I'll try to print a variable called n which is not defined, or I'll run it from here, from the other room, to show that the code run works on both the rooms. So I get the error, name n is not defined. And now for the last feature, we have the leave room part, which handles the socket disconnection. We have this button. If the user leaves a room, he comes out of this and gets disconnected from the socket. And same as from here. And to show the submitted code, I have this file here which was just submitted. And if I download it, you can see that we have the code.